Okay, so welcome everybody. We're going to get started. So my name is Jerry Pike, and I'm the director of the Learning Resources Center. And this is Allison Bostwick, who works in Student Health Services. She's a counselor in Student Health Services. And so we've been putting on these workshops for some time now. And we try to arrange them so they kind of match the sequence of the semester. And right now, obviously, is test-taking time. And so that's why we're doing this now. And basically, I'm going to talk more about the academic side of things, and Allison is going to talk more about the emotional side of things, but it's very hard to separate those two, especially with this subject, because test-taking for most of us is a pretty emotional activity. It pretends to be an academic activity, but I think a huge proportion of it turns out to be emotional. So today, what I want to try to do is get a sense from you about why you're here, what your concerns are, and we'll collect some of those on the board, and then we can talk about them. And I gave a handout on sort of what you can do before, during, and after a test. And so most of the stuff that I'm going to talk about is contained in that handout. And Allison gave you a handout that she's going to get to. I'm going to talk to you at the beginning of this thing, and then after about 20 minutes or so, I'll turn it over to her, and she's going to talk to you about sort of how to prepare yourself during a test to help you relax and perform better, because it's a huge part of succeeding in a test. Another huge part of it is being prepared as best you can before you go in, and we can talk about that too, how to do that. So I've just put the next workshop is in a couple of weeks, and it's on learning styles, and I would really recommend that to you very highly, because some of that stuff is going to come up today. How you perform as a test taker is in some part determined by what kind of learner you are. And there's an assessment that we give you that comes from Kolb, who's an educational theorist, and it's a fairly sophisticated matrix of learning styles. So what we'll do in the next workshop is you come in, we'll give you a short test assessment. It's not a test, yeah. Be prepared for this test. Test? No, it's an assessment. It's a self-assessment. There's no right answer. It just gives you, a kind of overview of who you are as a learner, and then we can talk about how that relates to the classroom. Okay, here we go. So here's the other thing. Some of you may not have signed yet. It's just a release for the video part of this. So if you wouldn't mind signing that for us, we'd appreciate it.
You guys signed on this side? No. I guess we'll just pass it, because we can just do up, down, up, and then whoever hasn't signed it. We'll start here. So when it gets down there, you can send it on this side and keep going, and we'll make sure everybody's signed.
Okay, so just to begin, tell me why you're here today. What are your issues with test taking? What is it you want to get settled or discussed? Yes?
I read too fast and I just misunderstand the question.
Okay. All right, good. Okay, so I'm just go over here. Carefully, maybe. So yeah, we've all been there, right? Where you sort of misread the question, or you give a great answer to the thing that wasn't asked, or something. Yeah. Okay. So what else? What else are sort of the issues in terms of test taking?
Not having, or not insufficient amount of time causes anxiousness, and I tend to black out. My mind gets really blank.
Okay. Time limits sometimes can equal a blank mind. Yeah. Yeah, actually just the anxiety of testing generally can produce a blank mind. I've had that one. I went in for my oral exam in the doctoral program and went blank. It was really, really pleasant, let me tell you. Yes? Nerves, just general nerves, okay? I'm curious too, are those nerves generally within the framework of the test itself, or before the fact, or just generally? Confidence? Okay, that's another one. Good. Okay, what else? Fear, okay. Is there anything fear Want to get any more, just general, okay? All right, well, what else is it? I mean, why else are you here today? What else did you want to get to today?
Extra credit?
Yeah, how many of you are here for extra credit? Yeah, that's good. We would think that would be a part of the package, right? Yeah. So, yes. I'm sorry? How to get comfortable taking a test, okay. And Allison is going to focus on this very specifically in the second half. Yes?
Just how to study and prepare yourself for it so you know that you cover it all.
Mhm.
You don't have to be scared
Uh-huh.
of making it.
Yeah. Yeah, and so you raise a good point because, again, it's very hard to separate those two things in terms of academic preparation and just general anxiety about the test-taking process, which is pretty common.
How to cut out distractions when you're actually taking it.
Oh, that's a good one. Can you think of any other kinds of just issues around test taking or maybe events that have happened to you that you would like to not repeat? Any particularly? Yes?
Not studying properly.
You're what?
Not studying properly.
You've experienced that? Not studying properly. Okay, so that's a good one. So I'm not sure if we have that here actually.
Not studying properly?
Yeah, properly.
I
So
think how to study and prepare kind of goes along with
how
that.
to,
and
how to, okay, yeah, okay. So we'll just say properly and determine what that might mean. Okay, anything else? Anybody feel like you've prepared for a test and not performed well anyway? Does that happen to anybody in here? Anybody? All right. Okay. I think that's probably, any of you ever experienced extreme anxiety taking a test? How many of you have felt that? Okay. How many of you have never felt anxiety taking a test? One guy, okay. You are here for extra credit. No, I'm kidding. So, all right, that's good. Well, actually, we'll like to hear from you because I'd be curious about how that works or what you might attribute that to. So, okay, well, let's just look at some of these. Again, in the handout I gave you, it talks about stuff you can do before, during, and after a test. But I think the main message I'd want to convey to you from an academic standpoint is, first of all, when you prepare for anything, you want to do it in short intervals. So you don't want to spend, in other words, cramming tends not to work very well. So there's a few don'ts, and that's one of them. And if you think about it, cramming is usually a response to some degree of procrastination. In other words, you've not done the studying as the time has been provided to you, so in the end you sort of, you want to try to make up for what you haven't done earlier. And the problem with that is, one, it doesn't work. Your brain can't process information that way. It processes information in little chunks, and it likes lots of repetition. So that's why it's really useful to you to begin as soon as you can and as often as you can, but in short intervals when you study. And the long intervals will also, not only does it not work with your brain, but it increases your anxiety. And if you do that instead of sleeping, for example, then a sleep-deprived brain is also not so functional. Okay, so that's one sort of general guideline. And the second general guideline is just that, even more generally, is you do want to prepare and know that you've done your best, right? So you want to know that you've taken the time and you've done your best, and then there are other issues that will come up anyway, even when you've done all of those things. But if you don't do those things, you're going to increase the emotional factor here, and not in a good way. So, all right. Well, let's look at reading the question carefully. So, when you receive the exam, And you are, who did that come, who'd that come? That came from you. All right, so could you share with us an experience you've had with doing this? How this worked?
Basically, just when you get back your test, you read the question
Mhm.
and then you get it.
Right.
And then you understand what you were thinking. Because you just like, that's for me at least, that I just see a couple of words and then I'm like, yeah, that's the answer.
Right.
And then I just maybe miss an accept or like, you know, like.
Sure.
So
Sure.
I just need to be more focused.
Yeah. Okay, so some of it is just from what Allison is going to talk to you about, which is how to relax in the moment of taking an exam, which is huge. It really does have a big impact on how you're going to perform. But, you know, another thing is, as you say, you know, how do I get myself to focus? And why is it we see the thing differently after the test than during the test, right? So clearly that has something to do with anxiety, right? And the pressure of the moment and being almost too concerned about doing well. You know, that can mess you up. So one thing I would say is when you're taking a test is to think about one technique that works for a lot of people is to underline the verbs in the test. All right, so if you underline verbs, and what are verbs? Action words. Okay, so any word in the instruction that includes an action, you can underline. Now, why would you want to do that? How would that help you kind of so-called decode an exam prompt of some kind? Any thoughts on this? Analytical question I posed here, but what you need to do, right? So in other words, if you think about it, you say, well, I have a task ahead of me. Well, what's the basic question? What do I need to do? Well, where is that information contained? What you need to do is contained in the verbs. That's where it is. And so in a way, it gives you a psychological advantage too, because you say, I'm not looking at this whole thing, I'm kind of breaking it down into parts, and it's always, you know, problems are always easier to solve if you can break them into parts instead of looking at the entire thing. So you can underline the verbs. You can underline nouns and, you know, as things. And somewhere within those things generally is included what you're supposed to produce. All right, so you've got what are you supposed to do, what are you supposed to produce. What you're supposed to produce will be contained in the nouns. Some of the nouns obviously are going to carry more weight than others. They're going to be more specific. So when you look at this thing, it's going to give you a better idea of what you need to produce in your answer. Okay, so in terms of reading it carefully, one, you need to learn to relax. Allison is going to help you learn to do that. The second is have some kind of technique at your disposal. Just knowing that you have a tool for looking at a prompt is comforting. You know, it's not just you say, oh, well, I have a technique. I can use this thing. So it's like having some company, sort of, while you're in the process of this lonely process of test taking. All right, so time limits and a blank mind. So the fact that you have time limits on the thing is just another source of pressure, right? I mean, unfortunately, in test taking, there are other kinds of pressures, right? It feels a little like a punishment almost sometimes, right? So, you know, one thing to consider in taking tests is to sort of get beyond that notion, and you think about, well, why do we take tests? What's the purpose of them? I don't believe the purpose of them, by the way, is to punish you. I don't think that's the primary. The primary goal is not to satisfy some sadistic impulse in your teacher who wants to just cause you pain, right? So then what is the purpose?
Like to see if you're efficient in the material that you've been assigned to.
Okay, good. So to see, you know, why do we do it? So why, the why is to kind of measure your knowledge. Right? I mean, if you think about, well, look, we've got all of these, it's part of, unfortunately, it's kind of part of the industrial model of education because there's so many of you and there's only one instructor. And so one efficient model is to say, well, at 2 or 3 points in the semester, we're just going to sort of get you to deliver. You know, in other words, most of the time you're sitting there in a more passive role, like this one. You're sitting there listening, you know, you're taking notes, you're kind of thinking, right? But with a test, you're supposed to deliver. You're supposed to give the information back. And so, in a way that can feel like it's a very different kind of role to play. But as far as your instructor is concerned, again, it's not there to punish you. It's there really to efficiently measure your knowledge. And as we know, some teachers are better at writing tests than others. And I can tell you from personal experience, it's very hard to write a test. It's not an easy thing to do. You want to try to be clear, but that's not going to work for everybody. So, all right. Any other reasons we test you, other than to measure your knowledge? Well, sure, it's a way of using, for grades. Because in many cases, they are a large component in determining what your grade is going to be. So again, when you think about that and the grades and the pressure of grades and wanting to have this record of your performance in a class, that's putting even more pressure on you in that one little moment. So you need to figure out how to disperse that pressure so it isn't all right in that moment. And so you're just doing your best within the time that's been allowed you. So one of the things you can do is stop thinking of tests as a single event and start thinking of them as one point in a series of events. And that's why the handout is set up the way it is. Because there is a before, and there is a during, and there is an after, and in some ways they're equally significant in terms of how you're going to benefit by the test and how you're going to sort of reveal what you know within the test. Okay, so time limits and the blank brain, I was sharing with you earlier, I had a blank mind, but it didn't have to do with the time limit. It had to do with, in fact, in my case, it was too much time. It was a 3-hour exam, and it was the very beginning of it, and I just went blank. There was just nothing there because I was so stressed out for having sort of over-prepared almost for over the course of several months. So that leads to what Allison is going to talk about, which are ways of helping you relax in the moment. But if you've also stopped looking at it as a big kind of judgment session, and the test, that is, and you've thought about it in this kind of 3-phase way, that alone will reduce a lot of the stress in taking tests. So nerves, confidence, fear. So we see a little pattern there, right? And again, I think the confidence part comes from preparation and knowing you've done all you can do. There is a bit of wisdom in that. If you say, I'm just going to do my best, and I'm not even going to worry about the results. I'm just going to do the very best I can, and whatever happens, happens, is generally a sort of less stressful way to go about things, and generally a more productive way to go about things. Because we can't really control the effect of things, right? We can't really control what happens as a result of something, but you can control the thing that you're doing. And the thing that you're doing is getting ready, going in, performing within the event, and then afterwards going back to it and not looking at it. Well, I remember once many years ago giving an exam in a lit course, and the student came in. I gave the exams back. He looked at the exam and he was so angry about his grade on the exam that he balled it up and threw it in the trash as he walked out the door, which, by the way, is not a good way to score points with your teacher. This it doesn't really work, So, and I could tell he was mad, and I had a feeling I was going to hear from him again, so I took his crumpled exam from the trash just for future reference. And he did, in fact, go talk to my chair, and the chair told him that he would flunk. Well, no, I won't tell you what the chair told. Anyway, it didn't work out that well, the chair part, because I did, in fact, have the exam, which I brought to the chair, and they looked at it, and he explained, well, with this crumpled document, here's your opportunity to make something, to make some lemonade, basically, right? Because it's true, it's after the test, but what do you gain by going back to the test you've already taken? The grade's in, it's filed, but what benefit might you acquire by going back to that exam later? Okay, learning from your mistakes. And how might that process work? How could you learn from your mistakes on a test?
You could kind of, alter certain things that you did, like either in preparation to the test or while you were taking the test, and try to change something along those lines.
Sure.
Try something different that might work.
Exactly, because look, you're in a position now, the pressure's off, it's over, the event is done. So just look at the results and see how that might change your behavior for the next one. And it might be how you prepared. It might be, well, you might take that test to your professor and say, you know, I studied for this exam, I thought I was ready, I didn't perform as well as I'd hoped. What would you suggest, right? And I don't think there's a teacher on earth who wouldn't welcome that kind of, you know, dialogue with a student. You know, and that's as opposed to going in and saying, you know, this test really sucked and it was unfair and what's going on? You know, this just isn't right. You know, so because that will just create a kind of defensive thing with your instructor, right? So better to say, I did my best. Where, you know, what would you suggest in terms of changing my preparation? Okay, so you could think about how you studied. You get a better idea of what kinds of tests the person is asking, what kinds of questions they're asking. And it can help you in preparing for the next one. All right, let's see, how to get comfortable taking tests. I think that's, again, more in Allison's domain, although, again, there's the comfort in knowing that you've done your best and prepared. Preparing properly is going to tie into this workshop as well, because what proper preparation is going to mean something different to each of you, because you process information differently. So I would say one of the main things in preparing is to get an idea of who you are as a learner and use that information to help you study. So, you know, for example, one of the things we're going to talk about in that next workshop is a situation like if you need to get someplace and you can have either a map or written directions. You can only have one or the other. And how many of you would prefer having a map? And how many of you would prefer having written directions? It's about 50-50. How many of you feel pretty strongly about that you want one or the other? Yeah, and most people do. Now that's just one question, but that question does contain the notion of whether you're more visual or verbal in terms of how you process information within the context of finding directions, okay? It might change in some other context, but within the context of I need to get from point A to point B, if you say I absolutely prefer a map, that indicates you very probably have a visual preference. And if you think about it, and many people do, I do, even though my background is in English and literature, I still am very much a visual processor. And so there are things you can do that will help you turn words into pictures that you'll be able to recall much more easily, right? So if you think about it, what's the test? You're sitting there, you're trying to recall information, you're trying to put it in words or symbols of some kind, right, to represent your knowledge. So if you're trying to retrieve information from an area that's kind of not necessarily comfortable to you, like say a textbook or something that you read on a page where you're supposed to remember the words, you know, that's much more difficult, say, than to recall, for me, than to recall maybe a group study session where I've said something to somebody, they've said something back, there's been some discussion. There are images, right? There are faces, words, images involved. That's a much easier thing for me to recall. And that's true for a lot of people. So you figure out, well, how do I put my notes in a more visual form? How do I put myself in a study environment that's going to be more visual so that this stuff will come to me more easily? And knowing that you've done that, by the way, is another kind of preparation, which again reduces your stress load. Because now you're saying, I'm not here this poor, I mean, I always felt like a kind of victim in tests. As an undergrad particularly, I was just sort of like, I could almost feel like I was standing right in the crosshairs or something, you know? So the more you can plan ahead and know that you have a strategy, the less you're going to feel like a victim. And you're going to feel more like a participant, which is the idea. Because again, teachers aren't really trying to torture you. They're trying to give you an opportunity to prove what you've learned. And also, well, that's true, there is a motivation in fear, you know, it does work. It's not one of my favorites. It's nobody's favorite really, but it can sort of get your attention. You say, well, okay, by this date I need to go back and review this material and be ready. Okay, so how to cut distractions while taking the test. That again is kind of the emotional part of this thing, but I would say, you know, the only thing I would add to being relaxed and being able to focus that way is, again, to say that you're going to use some techniques like marking up the questions. You're going to use techniques like looking at all of the questions and saying, well, what's the point distribution in this test? Because you don't want to spend all of your time on something that's only 10% of the value for the test, right? So you look at that, saying, I'm just going to think about what I'm going to do before I start. I'm going to come up with a little game plan. Those are all good techniques to use during the test, and they're all going to help you focus because then you're saying, look, I'm walking through my strategies. I've got my little routine. What is it? I'm just going through the drill, and that alone will reduce your anxiety considerably. So, do you have any questions about any of this? All right. Well, looking at the handout again, this is the one I gave you. Allison gave you one as well. This one says Bostwick Pike at the top. So, most of the things we've hit on, but in terms of before the test, as I said, start as early as you can. A lot of short intervals are going to be more effective for your memory. You can try making up your own exams. That doesn't mean you're being clairvoyant, you're going to predict what's on the exam. It just means it puts you in a mindset of, well, if I were teaching this class, what kinds of questions would I be asking? And that's just a great way to enter the course material. You can rewrite your notes before the class because that'll help you sort of, the more repetitions you give your brain, the better it's going to be able to recall things. Obviously each of you are going to have your own set of tools, of learning tools that you can use. During the test, as we said, preview the exam. Don't just plunge into it. And definitely make a plan before you get started. Read the instructions carefully. Answer the easy stuff first. That's just good time management, right? And write on the test. You want to check with your instructor that that's okay. You can start over when you're finished. Now, Allison and I have had some debate for several years about whether that's really a great thing or not, because you can second guess. I recently took a test, by the way, for training, and I was held, for CPR. And I took the test, and I went back and changed some answers, and every one I changed was wrong.
See?
So she wins, right? So at least in this most current sort of iteration of this thing.
First intuition is usually correct, so unless you absolutely know, sorry,
Yeah.
unless you absolutely know via other answers in the test that your answer is wrong, don't change it.
Yeah. I was so sure I was right, too. And I said, and I was thinking, in fact, I was thinking of Allison. I went, now I'm not just guessing. I'm not being a gambler here. I'm thinking about this again, and I know that this is right. And that was wrong every single time. So.
Trust your intuition. Trust your gut the first time.
Yeah. Okay, and so after the test, it's not over, right? That grade is submitted, but it's not over because it's just one step in the process. So you can always determine the source of your errors. You can work on building new skills. And I would absolutely encourage you to talk to your instructor. The other thing I would absolutely encourage you to do, if you have extreme test anxiety, is make an appointment with a student health counselor and get some advice about how to deal with the stress of test taking. That's related right to you, because each of you has 6 free sessions available to you every semester as a student here. That's an incredible resource. And it's especially helpful here, I think, because it's a school, and the counselors there are very much aware of this school and the pressures that go with this school, and so can talk to you about how emotional components of your life, whatever they are, may be impacting your progress as a student. So it's just, in other words, it's just a very healthy context to get some advice about how to change whatever it is you're doing that's not working. I think that's it, unless you have any questions. So.
I'm going to follow up just for a second on what Jerry was saying, because that's where I work, is in the student
Oh.
services.
Oh, one second. I'm going to give you this thing,
Oh.
because you're sort of,
I'm on.
this is your.
So because I work in the Student Health Services office, I just wanted just to elaborate that on a bit. All of you can have 6 free sessions per semester. There are 7 of us available, and not only to deal with test anxiety. The question about distractions, often distractions are really personal issues that we haven't processed that are coming into the forefront, and they're distracting us emotionally. So what the counseling does is it provides you a place where you can come talk about things that are troubling you that might get in the way of your being able to sit and study or get in the way of taking a test. There are other things that can cause distractions. if you've had a long-term problem with distractions when you sit down to study or take a test, there could be something more serious going on, and you may want to come and see one of us to see if you might want to get a referral, because if you do have some kind of attention deficit, that is extremely difficult as a student. And I'm not one to push medication at all, and I think it's actually being abused a lot, which is unfortunate. But if you really need something for your attention, I've seen people turn their grades around by being able to focus. So focusing is really more than just, I didn't prepare, I didn't study hard enough, there's issues that are distracting me, or I'm sensitive to noise. If it's really beyond that, you may want to definitely come and talk to one of us and get a referral, because that can wreak havoc on your academics, okay? So I just wanted to address that, since that hasn't really come up before on our questioning. So being that we only have 7 weeks left, actually 6 weeks of instruction after this and 1 week of finals, you're not all going to be able to get 6 sessions in the semester with us, but you may be able to get 1, 2, 3 sessions in that may just help you, especially if you do have test anxiety, and we can do some individualized work with you to help you get ready for finals. So actually, you can find us on this little handout I'm going to have you guys all look at now. I'm going to take a break from, you can turn off the video in a minute if you want, and have all of you just take this little test. Do you have test anxiety? So you don't have to tell us the answer, but I just want to have you guys do something a little bit on your own right now, so you can see whether you think you might have some of the symptoms of test anxiety. And on the very bottom, it actually tells you where to call us if you want to come and get an appointment. Right now, just heads up, it's about 2 weeks out to get an appointment. So if you think that finals are going to be an issue, call now. Get in on our schedule so we can help you. Or you can just come into the Student Services building and come into SS 170 to come and make an appointment with one of us if you're in that area. So I'm just going to give you about 3 minutes. Yes? Oh, you didn't get this handout. Okay. Do you have some more back there, Cammie, of my? Okay. Gave you. It's the second page. It says, do you have test anxiety? Go ahead. Does everybody have something to write with? Okay, I'll just give you about 3 minutes or so you can get an idea. I'm not going to be asking for you to turn these in. You don't have to share, but at least you'll know where you stand. So when we talk about test anxiety, you can understand how severe or non-severe yours is, or maybe non-existent for at least one of the people in the audience, yeah? Okay, and it would be a good idea to get some help. Now, some anxiety, as Jerry was talking about earlier, is normal. If you have none, some worry about a test, I'd actually be a little concerned. If there's some stress is normal. And let's look at that together on another page on the handout I gave you with this visual for those of you who are visual learners. And even if you're auditory, I'll talk you through it, okay? But whenever we go into any performance, whether it's a test or an athletic performance or a speech, we're going to have some energy around that. We're going to have some stress around that, right? Because stress is defined as any demands that are placed upon the mind or body, correct? So you want to have some energy. It's what we do with the energy that depends on the outcome. Okay, so if we go into, can I find an athlete in here, someone who is currently performing athletically? What are you doing athletically? Track? You're running track? Okay, what event, just out of curiosity? Okay, great. So when you're getting ready, and I was a runner too when I competed. So when you're getting ready for your races, do you feel that adrenaline? Do you feel that excitement? Yeah, your heart's beating fast. What else happens to your body?
It feels a little like nervous and jittery. It's like kind of like my heart just beating fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like I get very nervous.
But is it kind of good nervousness, like you depend on that to run fast? Or is it kind of not so good? Kind of not so good?
Like what I do, like I try to, just keep my thing relaxed. And when my heart beats so fast, it's hard to relax. So it's just, but after a couple of seconds, it goes away.
Yeah. That's the adrenaline, okay. And, okay, we'll get back to this, but I know you have a burning question over here, so.
I know also when you're in a fast heat, you kind of feel weaker
Okay.
right before you start.
Okay. In general, I know for me, I relied on that adrenaline right before a race. And I remember one time I did more than mile and 2 mile. I was a long distance person on track. But I remember one time not having any adrenaline in it. I was like, oh, this feels awful. It feels not good when you have too much and you feel like your heart's beating too fast and you feel like you're going to have to run to the bathroom 50 times. But it also doesn't feel good when you don't really care, does it? right? You know what I mean? You want to have that balance. You want to be in that zone. So in relating it to a test, has anybody ever gone into a test where you had that kind of that apathetic feeling where you just had bored, kind of you don't really care about your grade? Anybody? Yeah? That's not so good. And with that, you're generally not going to do too well, are you? Has anybody had the opposite extreme where you don't even have to say, I'm sure some people in here have had the opposite extreme where you go into a test and you're so nervous that your heart is racing. You don't want your heart racing before a test. Before a run, maybe a little bit, but before a test, you really don't want your heart racing. You want to feel energized. You want to feel motivated. You want to feel kind of pumped up, but not to the point where you're going to blank, where you're going to be in what we call, okay, where's our biology majors? What's the thing where you feel like you have to survive? What's the response called? Where you feel like you have to run away, fight or flight. So when you're in that place where you're so worried about the test and you're so worried about the outcome that it's like survival, you're going to go into what's called the fight or flight response. Your body doesn't know the difference between a thought that says, I've got to pass this test or death, and reality, that there's a tiger chasing you and you really could die. Okay, your body doesn't know the difference. Your body's going to go into all the symptoms, the increased heart rate, the increased blood pressure, the increased muscle tension, the galvanic skin response where your palms start getting sweaty. When you are in that survival response, our brains are not geared to retrieve mathematical equations or terms. We don't remember those things when our body is really stressed out, right? Because we don't need to. We need to survive. So do we want to let our body get to that point before a test? Not a good situation. So how do we control this? It's all through self-talk and positive self-control. So we studied, we've prepared. Really do read thoroughly through Jerry's handout. It is excellent. And it gives you can read all the points of how to prepare. There's nothing missing there. It's really great. So do take the time to read that. You can't just expect to do well in a test without preparing. But there's also 50% emotional preparation too. So you got to look at, how do I talk to myself before a test, right? Am I encouraging? Do I say, I hate tests and tests suck, and you look at it like a punishment? Or do we take that attitude and say, this is an opportunity for me to show what I've learned. And I'm learning to become a better test taker. And this is one step along the way, like Jerry was saying earlier. It's just one step. It's not a life or death situation. I'm just going to do the best I can and see if I can release the worry about the outcome. Okay, I know that's easier said than done. But the way we talk to ourselves directly affects the way our body responds. So what we want to do is feel the energy, feel the motivation after we've prepared, after we've gotten a good night's sleep, after we've eaten make sure we have fuel in our body, after maybe we've gotten some exercise that morning. We need to take care of our bodies too to perform at the peak in school. Research does show that. So do everything I can to take care of myself, control what's in my control. And then I need to talk to myself by, I can do this, I'm prepared, I know this information, I'm going to teach you at 1/4 no matter where I am, I'm stopping, so we have 5 minutes for me to teach you a relaxation exercise that can really calm you down. It's actually figuratively saved me when I've learned how to do this deep, calm breathing. When I felt my heart racing like you were describing before going into court one day when I got subpoenaed, and the result of my test, what I testified, would determine whether someone got custody of their kids or not. Can you imagine the pressure on that? And I felt my heart and I did deep, calm breathing. You can do this, you're prepared, just say yes or no answers, and I was fine. Actually, I had to do that twice. And it's very scary. So I know how the mind can play tricks on the body. You got to talk yourself through it. It's just a test. I know the information. Feel your feet on the ground. Use the exercises I'm going to teach you in a moment. And talk yourself so that you can be in that zone. Has anybody ever had that? Like you feel the energy, you feel the demands, but you go and you kick butt on that race or that test? Who's been in that zone? Ever? It's a great feeling. It's a great feeling. You all deserve to have it. And you can do that by controlling what you can control. You can't control what's on the test. You can't control the teacher's mood. You can't control the person sitting next to you going like this. Well, maybe you can. Not focusing on the things that are out of your control, focusing on what is in your control, how you care for yourself, okay, and how you choose to talk to yourself and how you choose to prepare. And I want to just make one more comment again that I'm very passionate about, that any of you who've been in the time management procrastination workshop or will come to my stress management workshop how important sleep is. I cannot emphasize more and more research is done on a daily basis right now on the effect of good night's sleep and memory retention and health and anxiety. If you already have test anxiety, you've identified it, mild to moderate to severe, if you don't get sleep, do you think that's going to make your anxiety worse or better? It exacerbates it. Sleep deprivation can often be the cause for anxiety, you guys. So don't use sleep to stay up longer and study. Go to sleep, get a good night's sleep. You're going to have better test results. Research shows that. I mean, there's always exceptions to the rule, but as a rule, okay? And research also shows that students who keep their exercise on a regular basis have better test results as well. In fact, they've done a study recently at, I think it was a high school in Indiana. They talked about this in the PE department, how there were some students at risk in high school of failing, and they got those pre-core ellipticals, and they had a 0 period for them, and they had them all start working out, and their grades increased over that semester. I can tell you all the reasons why, but we're not going to talk about that now. Just know that self-care also will help with your grades, and it will actually decrease your anxiety because you release cortisol in your body. That if it's built up is going to be one of the main distractions. If you haven't burned off enough energy and you're holding on to a lot of negative energy or stress, that is a major distraction, right? Okay. So, really, really important in terms of the way we talk to ourselves. One other thing I really want to say, and this is all in the handout, just read through the handouts, is another thing that really affected me when I was in school is if I would get to a test early, and everybody's saying, I can remember this with statistics vividly, did you study that hypothesis? And I'm going, and so what happens? We start talking about the test if we get there early, and then you start getting anxious. Get to the test on time, or if you can get there early, don't talk about the test before the test with anybody, because then they might bring up something you didn't study, and there you go in with this attitude. Remember, performance is 80% attitude and 20% aptitude, they say. So if you can keep a positive attitude about your relationship with tests, your relationship with yourself, and your relationship with school in general, it's going to positively affect the way you do and the way you see tests, okay? So if we could, I know this is going to be hard to video, but you can do audio on it. And if we could turn off the lights. And make sure, please make sure your cell phones are turned off. I beg of you, who don't want a cell phone ringing in the middle. Is everybody's cell phones off? Great. So we're just going to take about 5 more minutes. Everybody put your feet on the ground if you would. And begin by taking a deep breath from your abdomen. And when you're breathing in your mind, say deep. And when you're breathing out in your mind, say calm. Again, breathing in deep. And breathing out calm. And just imagine that you're breathing in the relaxation and you're breathing out the tension. And slowly allow yourself just to clear your mind of any thoughts that may be distracting, to let yourself become quiet and clear in the mind, all the while maintaining comfortable breathing. And now focusing on relaxing all of the muscles in your forehead area, just letting go of any tension there. Down into your cheeks and jaw. Through the back of your neck and into your shoulders. Just allow that relaxation to gently spread throughout your upper body. All the while clearing your mind. And just allow your chest and abdomen to relax as well. And then your arms. Just imagining any tension from your entire body flowing right out through the tips of your fingers. Breathing in the relaxation and breathing out the tension. Feels so good just to let yourself relax and slow down and just be. Just letting yourself be. And carry that feeling of gentle, calm relaxation down through your lower body, starting with your hips and your legs and into your feet. Just imagine any tension from your entire body flowing right out through the tips of your toes. Just let it be released. Give yourself permission to completely relax. And now in your mind's imagination, take yourself to either an imaginary or a real place. It's very peaceful and very safe. And really let yourself be there. Look around at any colors that may be particularly soothing. Touch anything you may want to touch. Notice any smells or sounds that are particularly comforting as well. But most importantly, just notice how relaxed you feel in this special place. This is your place to come to anytime at all. And just by imagining this special safe place, your body will remember to relax. And your body will associate this place with total relaxation and total calm. Take a few moments just to really memorize how peaceful and calm you feel right now, so that you can recreate this feeling anytime at all you may want to or need to. And when you feel ready, please take your time. You can open up your eyes, come back into the room, slowly becoming more present. And hopefully you'll feel as if you have a tool that you can use just to really calm yourself down. Okay, prepare for the lights. Prepare those eyeballs. So you may not have time for that whole exercise, but just even the deep, calm breathing is really helpful. I mean, like I told you, it figuratively saved me many times. And, you know, when you're getting in before a test, to do that deep, calm breathing. Since you won't have me to guide you, if you do the whole relaxation exercise, you'll use what's called Jeddaks. My forehead's relaxing, my cheeks are relaxing, my jaw's relaxing. And then what I encourage you to do, whether if you do it on your own, and we can help you with this if you come and see us, is once you get into that relaxed state, then see yourself going in to take that test in a calm, relaxed, present, centered way. And if you can visualize it, you can actually create that. There's something very powerful about being able to visualize that. Okay? So we're going to go ahead and pass these little attendance slips out that you can give to your instructors. For those of you who are here for extra credit, if you don't need one, let us know. And as we're doing that, if you have some questions, I'm sure Jerry and I would be more than happy to. Oh, thank you.